Ever wanted to know how to write progressions like this? Or maybe something like this. Or maybe something like this. Or how about yeah, so those were some Lacy songs at the beginning, and I played another progression that I use, sharing what's not exactly a formula like my previous Daniel Caesar video, but some helpful pointers to get your progressions to sound like Steve Lacy. Another example of a chord progression that I came up with based on some of these principles is now you can hear Steve spitting over that. The last one I came up with sounds like this. It's like an 8-bar progression. It repeats like that. Okay, so I came up with these progressions using 5 guiding principles. Before we get too into this, I'm going to be referring to these chords as their numbers, their tonal numbers, as opposed to their absolute note names. If this is a concept that's unfamiliar to you, I'd recommend going back and watching the Daniel Caesar video where I do a quick breakdown of it. I also have a free course that'll be in the description that will take you through and show you everything that you need to know about that. So the first principle that I use in some of the progressions is end your progression on the 2 chord. So just in case any of you guys were lazy, basically if we're in the key of C, that would make C the 1 chord and D the 2 chord, E the 3 chord, so on and so forth. So what Steve does in a lot of his songs, including Inside, Unless We Trust, and Bad Habit, kind of, is he ends the progression on the 2 chord. So in the example of Inside, it also starts on the 2 chord. It goes 2, 5, 6, 1, 2. In this case, it's a 2 minor 9, which is another sound that he uses very commonly. Bad Habit, I don't know if this is the actual key, but it goes 4, 1, 2. And then he does a quick pivot to 3, but he kind of ends the statement on 2. Once again, that's 4, 1, 2. And I was playing that in the key of C. He also does this in Unless We Trust. In this case, I'm in the key of D. It's a 1, 6, 2. 1, 6, 2. So as you can see, Steve likes ending on the 2 chord. A progression that I made based on this principle and the second principle, which is start on the 4 chord, sounds like this. It goes 4, 3, 1, 2. 4, 3, 1, 2. I ended on a 2 minor 11 chord. This is a chord that Steve likes to use. He uses it in Bad Habit, for example. Which brings us to our third principle. I know we're going kind of fast here, which is use chord extensions. Basically what that means is that don't just play a regular D major chord, play a D major 7 chord, or maybe in the case of like Unless We Trust, use a D major 9 chord. You know, don't play a B minor chord, play a B minor 7, or even better, B minor 9. Or even better, a B minor 11, like I just used. Or, in the case of the song that I was just doing, a 2 minor 11. Any minor chord, you can apply these principles to. To backtrack a little bit, the second principle is start on the 4 chord. He does this in Bad Habit, in You, in Give You the World, and in Helmet. Those are all songs that start on the 4 chord. Once again, if we were in the key of G, for example, all you have to do is just start on the first note and count up 4. So if we're in the key of G, it's G, A, B, C. We're going to start on a C chord. That's our 4 chord. The third principle that you can use when trying to make a song like Steve Lacy is to make 2 different endings. So he does this, for example, in the song Ride. The first part goes like this. They're very similar, it's just the last part that's different. That's the first ending. Second ending, and it's back to the top. So basically what you have is you have a sequence of, it's almost the same the whole time, and then there's 2 different endings that are slightly different for the endings of it. Ride also makes use of the 5th principle of writing a progression like Steve Lacy, which is pay special attention to the melody. Now when I say the melody, I mean the top note of your progression, but I also mean any flares. So in the example of Ride, it goes da, so whenever you're playing a chord, a progression, especially when you're on the A string, you have the option, if you're playing a C major 7 chord, for example, here, you can have that, your B string be the top note of your chord, but you can also, if you bar completely, you can have this high E string be part of it. So whatever your progression is going to be, make sure that you're paying attention, special attention to the melody that it's creating. Great, so now I'm going to show you guys 3 sample progressions that I came up with and what principles I used to construct it. First one sounds like this. So that progression was a 4, 3, 1, 2 in the key of A. So the principles that I used to make this one was start on the 4 chord, end on the 2 chord, pay attention to the melody, and I used chord extensions. My first chord was a D major 7 chord. My second chord was a C sharp sus. So I was paying attention to the melody because I had this little ba, and I wanted to keep it the same for the first 2 chords. And then I play my 1 chord, and I have this note that's a major 7 chord, and I kept that note the same for my 2 chord, right? So it's like these 2 common tones for each chord. That was my melody. It goes da 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 da, and then I use that minor 11 chord that we talked about earlier with Bad Habit. Okay, so the second progression I came up with sounds like this. Alright, I'm in the key of B. Alright, so this one is very simple, and it follows a lot of the same principles that the last one did. Firstly, since I'm in the key of B, I started on the 4 chord, which in this case is a E major 7. And then I kind of did the same common tone move that I did, but this time in a little slightly differently. Then I played an F sharp sus, but they both have this da, da. And then I went to the 3 chord, which in this case is an E flat minor 7. And then I adhered to the other principle of ending on the 2 chord. I did a 2 minor 9 chord. So this is a C sharp minor 9 chord. And that was my first ending. Remember how I talked about the ending? So I also, the second time around, it goes like this. It goes 4, 5, instead of going to 2, it goes to 6. In this case, an A flat minor 9 chord, right? And it also has all the chord extensions. One more time. Right? I can totally hear Steve going on that. The lesson I have for you guys doesn't follow as many of the rules, but it also kind of does. But I feel like it's very Steve-esque, and I feel like it's fitting because unlike the Daniel Caesar video that I found where he has a ton of songs that fit very neatly into this little box, Steve Lacy, he's just not on that. A lot of his songs are just so different, and it's really hard to lock down exactly what he's doing in a formulaic way. This is my best attempt, but really it comes down to you guys exploring chords and sounds on your own and placing them together in a way that you like and reminds you of Steve. Learning songs and stealing his voicings is a great way to get started, and then you just start mixing and matching. Anyways, the third one sounds like this. And it'll just repeat like that. That, in that case, it's an 8-bar progression. It could technically be maybe like the first 4 gets repeated for a while and the second 4 gets repeated for a while as well. So, what did I do for this one? So this is in the key of D. It is a 1, 6, 2, and a 3 dominant chord. This is one that you guys might not be as familiar with. 3 dominant is a great chord that can take us down to 6. And then I went to, this is kind of a funky chord. If you saw my Daniel Caesar video, you might be a little bit familiar with this. I did a sharp 4, minor 7, flat 5 chord, followed by a 7 altered, followed by a 3 dominant. So the little move that where I went from 6 down to boom, bum, bum. It reminds me of something that he does, and I think Like Me or something like that. It just sounded like a move that I heard him do. Anyway, I hope that this video was helpful for you guys. I would be very happy to hear what kind of progressions that you're able to come up with. Let's just do a quick recap. Before we do a final recap, I have a question for you. Are you a song player? Are you a riff player? Do you know how to operate the guitar but not really have any idea how to play the guitar or create anything of your own? I may have a solution for you. I am currently running a free community with a also free guitar course inside, teaching people just like you, song players, riff players that don't really understand the music that's around them or know how to improvise the melodies inside of them. And I would love if you guys would join us. The link's in the bio. Once again, it's completely free. You don't need to sign up, make any new accounts or anything like that. And right now we're so small that it's basically free private lessons from me because I'm personally reviewing all the submissions. Come, learn, take a look around, and I look forward to seeing you guys there. Now on to the weekend. So, our 5 guidelines are going to be end on the 2 chord, start on the 4 chord, use chord extensions, 9s, 7s, 11s, suspensions, make 2 endings, and finally, pay special attention to the melody of your progression.